Hello, Manchester, and welcome once again to Ward 13. My guest tonight is Glenn RJ Ouellette, who graciously came, substituting for Bill Barry tonight.
Bill, you owe me one.
Now, Glenn, we want to know a little about your biography. Now, we talked about, on tonight's show, 80% of the people in Manchester don't even bother to vote. Let's say I'm somebody that just came to Manchester, or somebody that's the lethargy has kept me from being politically involved. Let's talk about. I'm going to ask you questions. Tell me your opinion about the Manchester political scene. But first, you're running for mayor.
Yeah, but I have a comment on your 80%.
What?
Of the 80% that don't vote and the 20% that do, 10% of those are foreigners who have become American citizens and who remember when they were in their country, they weren't allowed to vote.
That's very true.
So we're spoiled here in America. It's not a right. It's not a law that we have to vote. It's a privilege. And for people to say it didn't go my way, and you say, did you vote? They say no. Why are you complaining? You could have made a difference.
Well, that's true. I lost my election by 41 votes out of, I think there were 2,500
And how many people
cast.
told you, I would have voted for you? And you said, well, why didn't you? I thought you'd win without my vote.
Then there's the other people that, because you come so close, this is my first run. They said, well, if you'd come to me, I would have helped you win. Forgetting the fact that I sent them letters, made them phone calls and everything. But it's interesting you mentioned about because you have an immigrant community here in Manchester. One of the things, I lived in California for many years, is when Mexicans would come to California, the Mexican government doesn't work. In fact, when I was studying political science at Boston University, they actually had a whole paradigm. It's called the PRI, the Revolutionary Institutional Party, which was the monopoly party in Mexico. And they created this system where you can, if you're a citizen, you can actually go to the government and ask for something. Then they send you to one room. Then they send you to another. Then they send you to another. It's a maze of bureaucracy. And at the end, you're just so frustrated, you quit. It's almost like the old Veterans Administration.
That's what they want you to do.
Yeah. And so when Mexicans came to California, they wouldn't register. They wouldn't even bother to register to vote because they figured that the government is not going to do them any good. But another thing about why people don't vote is a alderman who's no longer an alderman once told me that he is a proponent of the alderman at large system because he believed that each alderman in their ward essentially only answers to about 500 people in each ward. That there's just a small group of people.
There's an average of between 3,500 and 4,000 each ward that are registered voters. So how did you get 500?
Well, this isn't my opinion. This was an alderman that was a long-serving alderman.
Of course, they won't all call you. Maybe that's where he got it from.
He believes because there's only like 500 people that are very active, and essentially, an alderman relies on those 500 people and their connections to get reelected.
So can you imagine now if all 4,000 were to call that alderman, how much they could change the system?
Right. And that's one of the proponents during the charter. I wasn't here for when the Charter Commission created the alderman at large system because one of this was back with Bob Baines and that. I was still in California then. The idea was that the alderman at large would not be beholden to just this small group in their ward.
That's correct.
Because, like we're talking about, only 500 people. Mm-hmm. You know what it's like to campaign. There's very few people that actually come out to help you.
Look at it this way, John.
Yeah.
If my alderman, if I complain to my alderman, and I rarely do because Pat Long's my alderman and he's a good alderman. He really works hard for the people.
Oh, he does.
Yeah. But if I were to ask for him to do something that really needs to be done, and he wouldn't do it, I can go to one of the two aldermen at large.
Right.
And they can bring it up. Before you had aldermen at large, if your alderman said no, it ended there. That's politics.
Right.
So it does create another layer for you to get through all the electorate.
One of the ironies was I supported when I came back, because I came back to Manchester because my mother was ill, and Phil Griazza was running. And, you know, back in California, even here, I vote for mostly Democrats, but I vote Republicans. I voted for John Huntsman.
Well, I'm an independent, so I vote for the person.
2012. So I voted for Phil. But then we found out that Phil was very ideologically oriented. And then he wouldn't answer your calls anymore, me or other people that he just disagreed with. So guess who I wind up going to? Joe Kelly Levasseur or Dan O'Neill, which I didn't even vote for Joe. But it's
Remember,
funny.
Once you're elected, the rule is, and it's a rule that they don't always follow, but you're supposed to represent all the people in your constituents, not just your party's people.
That's right, because you mentioned Pat Long. Now, Pat Long would be a liberal Democrat.
But he'll answer anybody's question.
Right, it goes beyond that.
And he'll get the answer if he doesn't have it. Where some aldermen will just brush it away.
One of the interesting things about Bill Barry's turning out to be a great alderman.
He
doesn't care if you're a Republican. Watching him was, I'd be out campaigning with him, see how he handles people. It doesn't matter what your politics are. And then we had one person that was a Phil Griazzo and Tammy Simmons ally that was very nasty to him. But now he's a Bill supporter. Unfortunately, he didn't support me. He didn't vote for me.
You don't have to always agree with your elected official or with anybody else when it comes to a discussion. But by having the discussion, at least you're airing it out, and then you can have a legitimate vote. When the automatic board allows you to speak your 3 minutes at public comment, and at the end of the public comment, they make a motion to take into consideration. Well, last June 10, they passed the budget. But the following 2 weeks, my God, that's the 20-something of June, they had 3 mini public hearings. Why? Because they forgot to hold them before they passed the budget, and the law says they had to hold them.
That's right.
So I notified them, and I was going to file a complaint. So they had them. So they made a new rule. They couldn't last more than 15 minutes. They wouldn't give you a presentation, and you couldn't ask questions.
That's right.
So you wonder why people don't show up. If 100 people shows up at a public hearing and you got 15 minutes to speak and it's 3 minutes apiece, we're not going to get to speak, are we?
Do you go to the school board meetings?
Yes, I do.
And what happened there? Because I went to a school board meeting to talk about Bronstein Park, and I found out I had to wait 2 hours.
That has changed.
To speak. Was that Gatsis who changed the rules?
No, it's Gatsis that made the rules. It's people like me and others in the community that went to the school board and say, hey, some of us have kids in school and we'd like to put them to bed, but not at 11 o'clock at night. So how about having, like the automatic board, have it at the beginning? So he went halfway. Instead of having it at 8, 9 o'clock, he said, I'll start the meeting, and between 7:30, 7:45, we'll have it. So it's getting better.
Now, one of the reasons they changed the rules was to stifle debate about Common Core, do you think?
Yeah, well, that's one thing, and other issues as well. For example, in our school district, in every state in the union, every 10 years, they count how many people live in your town.
Right.
That's how you know how much federal grants you get or funding and state. Well, what we do in New Hampshire is the same thing. So every school district, every 10 years, redistricts as needed, like everybody else does. We've done it for 14 years, and we still haven't got it right.
Well, the thing is, I've talked about that to people, and they say that parents will object. I don't want my student being sent to another school.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And you try not to do that when you can't, when you don't have to. But, you know, you can't please everyone. You have to do what's right for the community. Now we have overcrowded schools. Why? Because we haven't redistricted like we're supposed to.
So some schools have fewer students and some are overcrowded. Now,
Well, look at our junior high schools. We have 4 of them. They're filled, not to capacity, they're filled between 54 and 68%. But we have about 20 some odd elementary schools that are all overcrowded. So now they're going to bond this year to build a brand new elementary school, maybe $8 million. And I say, what for?
Why?
If you empty one of those junior high schools and you put them in the other 3 schools, they still will only be full between 65 and 78%.
so rather
So
than...
you take the 5th
Yeah.
graders of all of Manchester and you put them in that mega school that takes
Yeah.
care of 2,000 when you don't have 2,000 5th graders. And all of a sudden, you've eliminated all the overcrowdedness and all the portables are gone. And I haven't spent any millions. It's called using your resources to the betterment of our community. It's not about ka-ching, ka-ching. It's about service. That's why I say it's not about me. It's about the people.
So why does I've only been I write mostly about national politics or state politics. I only became involved in city politics because remember the dog park issue, which
That's where you started.
yeah, we'll show you one thing that,
remember that.
going and talking to the board, you actually can get something done because we didn't get what we wanted, but certain things were revealed, and Phil Griazzo's career as
I won't comment on that, but I will tell you that no matter what the issue is,
Right.
you normally have to go more than once. For example,
we did.
If a pothole needs to be filled, then it's because it's so disastrous. It's so deep, it's horrible. And they don't do it after going 4 times in a row. That's 2 months of automatic meetings. They finally get it done. You have to ask yourself, why didn't they do it the first time?
Well, that's a question I have in many people. Like when I was going around for state rep, people really want to talk about the city. The one thing they want to talk about is taxes, whether they were Democrats or Republicans or independents, taxes. But the other thing is that there's a certain like inertia with the board of mayor of aldermen. Why can't they get certain things done? Like, let's say, why hasn't there been the recycling? Why is it like the recycling is like stuck halfway, like an old carburetor that just froze up? And it's like we're just looking at the carburetor and not doing it.
You shouldn't have mentioned that. Let me give you an example. When they started recycling,
Yeah.
they spent almost $250,000 to buy barrels, about 19,000 barrels. Who got them? The business people got them, and the people of the North End.
We got them on the west side.
And some people, there were some, but they're very little. So this year they bought another 600 barrels, which is not very many.
Right.
And they said that everybody has to pay $50. And I said, wait a minute, how about the first comer? Should they get their barrel free like everybody else did? And they said, no. Mayor said we have one Manchester, but I never see it. So the very poor who want to recycle, in the family houses, they had to pay $50. Well, the businesses got it for free, and the people of the North End got it for free.
And I got a little free on the west side.
Well, I got one free too, but you know what? It took me 8 weeks to get it.
I don't know
kept
why.
asking and asking and asking.
I don't know why. It just showed up. My sister got one over in Ward 8.
So what they're doing now is last year, the mayor and board and aldermen tried to, without making no policies now. Can you imagine trying to force us to say yes to a program that they don't even know how it's going to run yet? So they were going to make $3.4 million in tag and bag.
Right.
And I said, how much of that money goes to replace the trucks, the trash trucks? They're getting old. You always say we're going to have. And they say, oh, no, we're going to bond this. Why would you bond it when you get $3.4 million every year? $3.4 million every year. No, that money goes somewhere else. So you're going to tell me you're going to tax me for trash, and not 1 cent is going to go to trash. If I did that, I'd go to jail for misuse of funding. That's what I want to change at City Hall.
Well, I used to write about accounting, and we know there were financial accounting principles businesses have to use. Then there's the government accounting practices. And then there are the federal government, which is, you would be put in jail if...
Well, do you know what happened Tuesday night? The mayor said he's sick and tired of taking exit 4. I didn't know he took that exit, but I guess he does. And seeing all the graffiti on the boards that are there. There's a sound fence.
Right.
Now, he's gone to the state, and the state says we are now doing a project. They're widening the road, and they're replacing the bridges.
State, yeah.
And they're saying in April or May, when the project is done, we will get rid of the graffiti. Well, this Tuesday night, he said that's not acceptable. So he told the highway, estimate for me what it'll cost for us to do it.
The city, huh?
Yeah, so guess what? $1,000. One alderman says, are we going to get reimbursed? Mayor says, no, we're not, because we're doing it now. We're not waiting. Guess what? He should take his $1,000 because we need that $1,000. Yeah. It wasn't budgeted to begin with, so who's going to get hurt by that? Some department's going to have to take $1,000 somewhere and can't get the work done, which is our services, because the mayor wanted it done now and not wait till April.
And it'll just get tagged again by
That's
the
right.
graffiti
And
artists.
first of all, it was 18 below zero this morning in Manchester. Who's going to go spray paint? It's going to blow up right on them. Common sense.
Let's. I got a couple of questions about the mayor. First off, with the charter commission, the old charter commission, because the one we had recently failed.
It failed for a reason. Remember, when you do a charter change, it's not all about, again, raising all the raises of the elected officials.
Right.
It's about doing something for the people. There was nothing for us. It was all raising their salaries. And we voted no because of that very reason.
Were you on it?
I wasn't on the charter. I ran, but I didn't quite get it. I almost got in, but I didn't get in.
But back in the when they had the charter commission, it was in 1999 or anything. Didn't they move power from the board of aldermen to the mayor and from the departments to the mayor?
To some extent.
Yeah. Now
they regret it.
They regret it. Tell us about Ted Gatzis. Who is Ted? If I'm now the hypothetical, I've just moved to Manchester, or I'm apathetic and something's irritated me, and I'm finally got interested in politics. Who is Mayor Gatzis? Let's say I read an article about or watch him on the TV during a meeting like the school board, and there's a contract that requires a certain person to have a residency in Manchester, but they've refused, and he puffs and blows about it. Then when it comes to the vote, he actually votes against what he just said. It was a 180-degree reversal.
Because it's an election year coming.
Well, who is he pandering
Mayor
to?
Gatzis right now, he's in a new attitude, which I call the feel-good attitude. He will feel good by spending $1,000 of our tax money instead of letting the state do their job. He wants it done now. It's a bully mentality.
So he wants to do Exit 4, which, like you said, why is he taking that? Creamland's not over there unless he's going to the
It doesn't matter.
Bay.
They're allowed to use that
But he's
road,
trying to do that for the west side now.
The point, yes, but the point is the state is going to do it in the spring. They're not going to do it now. That's done by steam. The steam will freeze. It's never going to get off.
But who is Gatzis, and what?
Gatzis
why are you running for mayor?
Gatzis
and why are you running against Ted
Gatzis? Was born and raised in Manchester. Went to our schools. A graduate of Central High School. Went to the University of Maine. He's a very smart man. What's smarter than he is, what's too smart for him, is his bulliness. It's what gets him in trouble. His way or the highway, and you can't operate a city that way. It's not representative of our city. For example, they've sold the police station.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times already, and it hasn't been sold.
Every time. What's going on with that?
The first bid was $1.8 million. It's valued at $2.8. 1 point. It's not bad. We're in an economic recession. Not bad. Well, the people came from Massachusetts. They weren't local people. And the city didn't want them to do what they wanted to do because they had already told the public. The public wanted that to be, it was already owned by the public. Very safe building. Make offices out of that and bring the departments, smaller departments that we're paying, like in this building, we're paying, and put them in there because we already own the building.
And you'd save
And he said it
rent.
would cost too much money. People come in from Massachusetts and they're saying, we're going to do it for half the cost that you were going to do it. Well, they can't accept that. So they made it so hard that they said, we don't want your bid. We're not taking it anymore. So they got out. A second one comes in. They bid $1.2 million. Bill Benny wants to build a TV station at the police station.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that.
But the board of mayor and alderman says, absolutely not. We don't need another police. We don't need another TV station in this city.
Why?
There's your
Pay
bully
taxes.
mentality.
He would pay taxes.
He went to Concord, spent $1 million on an old school, and invested $4 million in repairing it. Today, that building is being taxed in Concord an evaluation of $5 million.
Right, and he's just rolled out new programs.
He would have done that here.
programming.
He would have created jobs. It would have been a nice building. But we said no. Now, the third bidder was a very good financial friend in Auburn of the mayor. And he bid $800,000.
Right.
But it was too much money, so he convinced his friend the mayor to tell the board of mayor and aldermen that we got to take almost $250,000 out of there. Well, when I make a bid for $800,000, I can't back out and say we're going to cut it another $250,000. You've already made a deal, so he backed out. So this time around, the mayor says it's got to be sold. It's an election year, the feel-good attitude. So he went back to his friend in Auburn, and he's going to sell it for less than $500,000. But by the time we take $250,000 out of it, oh my God! This time he says you got to give us $30,000 down, and if you don't buy it, you lose it. Well, $30,000 versus $250,000 ain't gonna cut it. So we're gonna sell that police station for between $500,000 or less, when we could have gotten $1.2 million. We knew, and it would have been open by now. The guy who wants to buy for less than $500,000, he doesn't know what he's gonna do with it.
Could it become a non-profit, which would mean that there's no taxes?
It could be torn down and just used as a park, as a parking area. We don't know. They had a good deal with Mr. Benny. Why didn't they take it? In this city, I've gone to Concord, I've gone to Salem, Portsmouth, and Keene, and looked at how they attract businesses. They use the same rules that we use under state law. You have to follow state statute. Except what we do is we up the the ante. For example, if you own a restaurant,
yeah,
and you have to have a dishwasher, you got to pay $25 to $50 for a permit for your dishwasher. But if you own a bar and you want to sell a little stuff from food, you don't need a permit. That's why people don't come to the city to build, because we ask too much.
So why are you running for mayor?
I am running to change policies. It's supposed to be the people's government, and it's not anymore. They get into office and they say, "Oh, now that you let us do our job," but they're not. For example, the people that are still in office on the board of mayor and aldermen and the school board today that have been there since 2000,
yeah,
are the problem, because the problems that existed then are worse off today. All we do is throw money, and we don't solve the problem.
I'll tell you, the school board makes, now I'm going to date myself for this reference, but watching the school board in action makes the board of mayor of aldermen, even with Joe, is his best, look like, Rebecca of Sunnybrook.
You need to have a mayor in this city that will do what's best for the majority of its people as a community. You can't please everyone.
Is the problem with the way the mayor's office is constructed now, that there's too much power? Would we be better off with a city manager like Portsmouth?
Actually, you know what? I had envisioned that at one time. I'll tell you why. A city manager has to follow state statute.
Right.
Mayor doesn't.
You don't see the problems in Portsmouth. Of course, it's a different area.
Portland's the same way.
Yeah. Portland, Maine?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's a
They
big,
have a mayor.
55,000 people.
It's 68,000 people. They have a mayor, but they also have a city manager.
There just seems to be, and I hate I know the aldermen are hardworking, most of them do their constituents, but there just seems to be a certain level of inertia.
It's because
nothing happens.
Our form of politics in this city is exactly that. It's politics.
Right.
Who do you know? Who can you, and not...
Yes, the 500, like we were talking, we got 2 minutes, Glenn.
All
so
right.
it's the 500 people. That's...
So I'm running to change that.
Okay, you got the last 2 minutes. Tell the people...
Let's play the 29-second ad.
Can you play the ad, John? Okay. Oh.
What I want to do is change policy and move forward, move up. We're not moving up. We're still stuck in 2000.
I know. We are stuck. It's
So
when I
I
came back.
want to be the people's mayor. And to be the people's mayors, you don't just take care of a few people. You do what's right for the community as a whole. Like we have 25 neighborhoods in this community, yet most all of them don't know where they are. They created them.
Oh, yeah, we have Rimmon Heights, and it was going to be the signs, and now there are no signs. I think that was the end of the whole idea of the neighborhoods, that we don't have the money now to put up the signs.
Well, I'm going to campaign in all 24 neighborhoods.
Okay, Glenn, thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
being on the show, and thank you, Manchester, for visiting Ward 13. We'll see you next week.
The invisible.